Right, so next up is gems, and then we'll leave weapons and heroes for last, since they're the two really important ones. But gems in themselves are actually quite interesting, because there are, a few decent ones to go through, some interesting things. There are also ones that are kind of set in stone that you need for the end game. So presentation mode, like usual. And to start off, we want the red gem. Okay, so it's a 5% boost to physical attack. Right, if you find them, you're probably going to use them, but I wouldn't say it's a big enough bonus, especially when the majority of the time you want to clear using Phantasmal Claw or magic attacks, right? So hey, using this on the Mystic, using this on the Dark Mage, or anyone with Phantasmal Claw isn't super useful because they're obviously not physical attacks. And then by the time you can make, say, the Knifey Glove, right, to do AoE, or the Widowmaker to do AoE physical damage, you're not gonna worry about having red gems. So close to irrelevant, but probably still. Well, we categorize the shields and the armor the same way, right? If you find them, you're going to use them if you don't have anything else. But if you have other things, you're probably going to use them more often. The blue gem, relevant too. Again, anything that can be circumvented through just using relics, seems like you just want to use relics, right? You don't need a lot of mana. 5% in itself is also not a huge boost. So you're better off just grabbing the MP relic, dimension 3, dimension 4, 5, whenever you grab it, and upgrading that rather than using the blue gem. Purple gem, 5% evasion. Somewhat useful, right? It's nice just to have it now and then. On the Soda Junkies, I take full advantage to try and get them as high as possible. But overall, for a lot of heroes, you're not going to bother. I'd say it's probably more important than the other two. I'd probably go like that. Right, evasion, MP, then physical attack, but still all irrelevant. Now, the green gem, the aqua gem, a 5% boost to attack. That is significant. Okay, the relic amount you get is only 2 compared to HP and MP, which is 5. Right, so this is where 5% is actually kind of more relevant because you're getting less than half of the relic bonus of those other relics when you upgrade the attack relic. So 5% is actually nice. It also then, helps with magic attack. So I do think the Aqua Gem is decent for boosting your damage slightly, right? Still just an early game gem overall. Demon Eye, 25% damage reflection. I'd say it's irrelevant. Again, you're not going to stack damage reflection really in the early game. The only time you want to make use of it is probably on the Blacksmith. Why am I spacing? We've been talking about him in most of the other videos. But yeah, altogether damage reflection I think is undertuned. Same with the magic damage bonus, right? 25% back is not significant. Right, when enemies and bosses have, 2 to 10 times your HP, doing 25% of their damage, or your HP pool, in most cases, is not significant, right? I wish there was a multiplier, right? If these were all, say, 125%, where, again, you take a quarter of your HP and you're dealing back proportional to the actual scaling on most enemies. After that, we have the Star Gem. Now, this is definitely relevant, right? In most cases in the early game, it is a bigger bonus than the 5%. It upgrades HP by 50, attack by 25, and MP by 20. So I do think it is highly useful, and it's not too hard to find a full set because it's rare, and you probably just want to use them, right? It's what? Equivalent to 10 levels on the HP relic, 12 levels on the attack relic, and whatever it is on the MP relic. So I do think the Star Gem is super useful. Eye Gem, Item Find. Item Find is actually an interesting one, right? We'll do this. We'll do early game, and then we'll skip to the Treasure Hunter's Gem, right? Because both of these give Item Find. And Treasure Hunter, mid-game, right? Late game, again, where we're saying this is when you have the majority of items and you're just going for, the perfect comp. Eye Gem, 10. Treasure Gem, plus 20. For a lot of Item Find items, right? You cycle through them, okay? For instance, you might say craft, the silver pendant, till you find the next best item. Same with weapons, same with gems. You use these to catapult into these other gems, and then you just go with those gems. So again, because it's a direct upgrade, the Treasure Hunter Gem is better, but you'll have more access to the Eye Gem in the early game, and then the Treasure Hunter Gem in the mid game. You'd want to use the Eye Gem, as soon as you get to that mid game, so it'd be somewhere here, and then find your Treasure Hunter Gems, and then swap them out, right? Again, just go for max item find. Do I really need to say it again? Okay, marginal increase is still an increase to me, so I will stack maximum item find to hunt for mythics, even if it is marginally, even if it only saves me an hour, it's still an hour. Target gem, 50% crit damage. I do think this is relevant. I don't think any crit builds really work. Again, for Boss Rush, the old comp for the Infinite comp used crits on the Blade Masters, and this gem actually saw use there, but altogether now I think it is relevant. Again, 50% isn't huge, right? Because they're not multipliers, they stack. Okay, so it's not 50 times 50 times 50, or what would be 0.5, which should be technically 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5. But in all cases, they don't stack like that. They're additive, right? So 50% plus 50%, 1.5 becomes a 2 multiplier, right? And altogether, it's not hugely significant. I'd rather 100 times 1.5 than times 1.5 than times 1.5. Altogether, not enough damage. Again, undertuned for what they do. Pearl Gem. This is sort of equivalent to the Star Gem, just an upgrade. So I'd probably say mid-game, but it is a fairly early on gem, right, that you'd probably use to, again, upscale your comps so that you can go hunt for all the better items. Gold Gem. This is one of the new gems that I didn't actually utilize, but I would definitely utilize in the early game and the mid-game. Probably the mid-game more so, right? Probably go about there. You'd want to just stack them again to catapult yourself to get enough gold so you can feed into the Wishing Well, Magic Fountain, and, cycle back essence. Once you get the gold relic to a certain point, like with the case of most relics, then these gems are no longer significant, and then you go for the more niche gems. But till then, gold gem, super useful. We'll stick in the mid-game, behind the treasure hunter gem. The space gem, 50 MP and 2 MP regen. I am going to say it's irrelevant. You could use it on healers. It's crafting, it's 350 plus. The materials for it, from memory, are pretty complicated to actually find. Let me open up, let's see. You need 15 magic powder, 15 love dust, and 10 silver bars. I think that's all pretty irrelevant, right? To actually farm those in any dimension, any given dimension, is pretty redundant, right? And then you're not going to carry enough with them. Even if you have the max bag resourcefulness, you're taking 50%, right? So you're not going to be able to craft all these items to use in each dimension. Altogether, I think crafting is very overtuned, right? You require so many things that you're really not emphasized to craft or to invest these resources until you get to the warrior dimension. And then once you're at the warrior dimension, none of these items are significant enough. Almost, for instance, right, if I were to rebuild the game for any way, what I would do is I would probably scale everything, right? So in each dimension, each gem, each item has a bonus to them, right? So once you get to the warrior dimension, this space gem, rather than being 50 and 2, it could now be, 520 or something like that, right? Just upscale everything so that there is some more importance to crafting it in relation to what you're actually doing in each dimension. But altogether, it just takes way too many resources to craft. Triangle Gem. 10% boost to character mastery. Again, undertuned. I don't think it's relevant enough. It's definitely the mid-game. Might see some use, but it is not hard to get enough resources and just use the chef to power level your comps all the way to 50, right? So I don't think 10% is worth it. Same with the actual relic. Speaking of which, that's something we had, debatable. Should I do a tier list for relics? I mean, gold, HP, and attack are just going to be at the top anyway. And then all the other ones are kind of meh. No, I'm not going to do relics. But yeah, I personally, I think it's irrelevant. Right, I think, again, it's not that hard to max level everything, just using the chef, just using resources, using food. 10% just isn't significant to that. Tech Gem. Now, good damage. Again, the materials are a pain to find, right? If you can craft it, even if you can craft one, definitely is good for the early game. The damage multiplier is nice, but I am just going to say it's irrelevant. You're not going to get the correct crafting materials for it. Again, for when it should be relevant. If the damage scaling on it would be greater, sure. But theoretically, right, you get it 500 plus. So this is dimension 6, okay? Because you're in dimension 5, you've beat the dimension of 500. 7 and 8. 8, I believe? No. Is it 7 or 8? I think it's 8. 8 is where you unlock the Nailed It multiplier, right? So the best damage on the Carpenters, which is a 4 times multiplier, where this is 2.2. Nailed It also costs significantly less MP. So altogether, it just gets eclipsed. And because of that, I don't think it's useful. Sandy Gem. Probably the most useful mid-game gem, right? Until you completely outscale the Primal Land environment in terms of damage and HP, you're going to want some Sandy Gems, because it is just a blanket prevent delirium, which is also another sort of weird bit of balancing to me, right? Because it's sort of like they've invented a problem so that they could implement a solution type of deal. So it is a necessary evil, if you will, right? The 10% gold is also nice, right? So it's inbuilt with this gold gem. And then the delirium is just necessary to the promo lens till you, again, upscale your whole comp. Treasure Hunter gem, we've already done. Now we're getting into the complicated ones. Although we'll go to the copper gem. 15%, sorry, status resist is useful in the early game, right? Crafting it to do the Darkest Lord instead of just scaling up your comp, right? I could see that if you're trying to speedrun, but in most cases, you're just going to upscale your damage till you, again, eclipse the content. Okay, so we'll stick it at the end. If you get the copper is a bit better than all the other crafting. But yeah, I don't know. The uranium gem. Late game has its use again. You want to add the percent boost to all stats, to all the multipliers. So like the Midas Sword for gold, the Gravedigger Shovel for amping up enemies. All those that have, set multipliers rather than the percentages. You want uranium to back them up. So because of that, the uranium gem does see use. Platinum, that is a load of garbage, right? 5% damage reduction for the crafting materials. How much platinum is it? Right, it is 10 platinum. Okay, so the second hardest ore to find and farm, and they're only giving you 5% back for it. It's just, it's irrelevant. Again, by the time you get all the materials to actually craft it. Okay, the Gem of Relentlessness, necessary, right? The -1 is essentially just built for Foretell, right? So you can stack it with a bit less Huntresses so that you can get Foretell on an instant cast in case you get back-to-back warps. The other specific ones, the Gatekeeper Gem, right? Also a necessity. You can sort of get enough key find where you don't need it, but you might as well. It's only one gem slot. And then the other one, the Planar Gem, right? So all three of these, because of their set effects, are just there to boost and make the Primal Lands comp consistent and quicker, right? So because of that, they're all a necessity. The Mind Gem. I've never had an issue with MP drain in the Primal Lands. I can see it being an issue, I guess, so we'll put it there. But there is it an item? Yeah, it's one of the accessories. Sorry, I was trying to think of the thing that creates all costs, makes all costs 1 MP. In which case, again, with a little bit of regen, even just, 1 space gem, if you want to use that instead of, Mystic or anything like that. You know what? Actually, yeah. Mid-game, irrelevant. Just tacking it on to the wizard in addition to the accessory that makes all MP cost 1, then it has use. But in that scenario, right, it's not the gem that is necessarily the useful part because you require the accessory, right? So it's almost irrelevant, but then because of the accessory, it is now somewhat useful. What do we have left? We have Keymaster, 5%. I think you're better off just using Keyblades, right, rather than stacking the gems, because the Keyblades give significantly more. Gem of Decay, Withering, definitely useful. You just stack it again to reach all your caps. Same with the Geo Gem. Actually, they're probably behind the Uranium Gem. And then the last one is the Crit Chance. Again, was useful for Boss Rush. I don't know if it still is. In most cases, I'm going to say it's irrelevant, right? Again, crit just doesn't do enough damage. All the alternatives to what everyone has strategized, right, means that there are a lot of dead items, right? So evasion is technically dead because we know now that the best comp doesn't use evasion. Same with using crits or using any of these status effects. So I do think this is probably the correct standing. Again, the 3 big mythic gems are necessity because of their uniqueness. And again, they just enable the comp, right? So they're not super beneficial, but at the same time, they are necessary because they are just 1-ups to your comp, right? The Planar Gem is just a flat speed increase. The Lock Gem, right, just gets rid of the extra cost for the Primal Lands in terms of keys, right? Where it ramps up and you require more keys to select the alternative paths. And then the Gem of Relentlessness, the Gem of the Restless, there we go, is necessary. Right, so you can cut out a Huntress and you can run the optimal comp, Tavern Owner, Janitor, Wizard, 2 Huntresses, right? And then the Gem, and that's the Foretell done. And then, in my case, I run a Blacksmith for taunting, but I think most people would run the Dark Lord for the Savior, right? So because of that, those 3 are definitely the top tier. But in terms of usefulness, I'd probably say the Uranium Gem is a little bit better. Again, I'm big on, amping up the Gravedigger Shovel or the Midas Sword, or anything with a flat multiplier. as much as possible. Anyway, that is the gems done, right? So 2 to go. Weapons, that will definitely be a lengthy one. And then we'll do heroes last. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.